up, Evil Dead fans? In this video, we're going to talk about this, the Evil Dead 2 Lineage cover. Now, I'm in the process of just completing this cover, bound 2 pages, the works. Now, I'm going to show you what I did from the start. And before I get started, I want to thank again David Bartrug from Monster Collectors on Etsy for making this available. This is a legit cover from a mold, from a book, from the same mold, from the books made for Evil Dead 2. This is the most accurate cover you will ever get, and I'm sorry to say, everything else wishes it could be this. I look at the one that I did, and I just want to throw it in the trash, because now I have the legit deal. If you get one of these, treat it with respect, even though I'm waving it around like an idiot. Treat it with respect, paint it right, make it look good. Before I get started again and showing you this process, it's been like 3 or 4 days since I got this. Look up Gothman's Epic Stuff. He will show you how to paint this. And he does a great tutorial. And he might do a video on how to bind the book, because it's kind of a pain in the ass. And I'm going to show you that here in a little bit. And thank you, David Bartrug, for making this available. This is the book. When I hear the word Necronomicon, I think of this. I don't care if you're an Army of Darkness fan. I don't care if you're an Evil Dead 1 fan. Or 2013 or whatever. When you think of Necronomicon, you think of that. It's iconic. It is the best. And who knows how long these will be available. Because I got mine. And guess what? No ear on the back. So you know it's legit. Let's get started. So here's the cover from David Bartrug from Monster Collectors on Etsy. This cover has direct lineage from the original mold used for the Necronomicon in Evil Dead 2. So this is what you see in Evil Dead 2, which is very, very cool. I'm glad he decided to go ahead and reproduce these. He added these tabs so they could be mounted. Al Briardi was the one who suggested that to him to help Al mount these things. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off all this excess latex, because this is a latex cover. And after that, I'm going to plasti dip it. And that's something that Al showed me that he does. What it does, it actually preserves the latex a lot longer. If you don't know, latex does rot away after time. So if you ever have like a latex mask or one of those Necronomicon DVDs from like 20 years ago, you'll notice that a lot of people who have them, or if you have one, they have started to deteriorate because they are made of latex. So plasti dipping it will make it last longer. So I'm going to do that first before I actually paint the cover. So first step, trim. Second step, plasti dip. Third step, paint. Okay, so the edges are trimmed up. And next thing is to plasti dip it. It is a flexible protective rubber coating. Usually you'd find this in like touching up spots in like truck bids, things like that, liners. So I'm going to run a coat on it. And this is something you don't have to do, but this helps out with the latex so it doesn't get all crusty and rot away as fast naturally. And of course, latex does take some time to rot away, of course, but this kind of helps prevent that. So, and this stuff takes about 4 hours to cure. So I'll get to the painting as soon as this is fully dry. I'm gonna add some more in the little cracks here and let it dry. It's been 30 minutes since I added the plasti dip. Now the can says wait 4 hours, but it's drying pretty quick. And I think that might be because you need to add really thick layers if you're doing like spots on a truck bed, things like that. So I think I'm gonna be able to get the paint in this a lot quicker. Like right here, that's, you can see it's still kind of wet, but not really wet. The cover is good. So what I'm going to do is paint this similar to the method that Al Briardi posted on the Knights of Samaria on Gothman's Epic Stuff. Pretty sure he did post that on there. kind of the same deal that he's doing, so I really don't have to cover a lot of it. I'll just kind of go over after I've done a step here and there. He does like a time-lapse deal with his video, so if you're interested, if you get one of these covers and you're interested in painting your own, or you make your own and you paint one, that video could really help you out. I'm going to go ahead, do the first layer. It's like just a very simple brown, and that's what he started with his, so that's what I'm going to do. All right, so got that base layer on, and I know in Al's video he used the chocolate brown. What I used was a bark brown, and bark brown gives a little bit of a lighter appearance than that. Now, I see a lot of people, not with these covers specifically at all, just in general when people make Necronomicons, they just paint it brown, and that's what I consider the Dookie Brown books, because it's better to layer on paint, give it some different aspects, different lighting. So I know in this next step, Al goes with a burnt sienna, then a raw sienna, which I'm going to do, but one step I'm going to do next is add this color right here. Now what that is, it's coffee bean mixed with Spanish olive with just a touch of pavement. And what that does is just gives a little more depth. I'm not going to put it over the whole thing. I'm going to be putting it on spots and then just simply brushing it on certain spots and then dabbing it off. So I'm going to do that real quick, and I'll come right back and show you how it looks. So you can see I added some already. Let me get some better light in here. I'm right damn light. But you can see how that's getting in there to these areas. So what I'm doing is just brushing it in and wiping it out. Just want it kind of in these areas, in the lower areas. Not everywhere, and I am going to layer some different colors over top, but at the end you'll see this in certain areas. Like I'll put it like right in here, right? Try to get it in there as much as possible in those little indents, and then I'm going to simply start wiping it out. It's kind of tough to do this one-handed. You can see how it's getting inside of these little areas. Right now we got the Dookie Brown look, and what I'm doing is layering in different areas, and that olive green that I added into it really offsets it, just it from being a brown or a green, and adding the pavement, and pavement's kind of like a grayish color, which gives the appearance of a gray look. So if I mixed this together, or this together, this together, that together, that's the color that I come up with, is that look you see inside of there. So I'm going to do it over all these little areas and wipe away most of the excess, and then I'm going to start highlighting with the burnt siennas and the raw siennas. If you look at this side right here, you can see there's some areas that are lighter now. I did use that burnt sienna to kind of highlight the upper areas and leaving that other color on the lower areas. And this side, this other side I'm about to show you, I started using the raw sienna, and I really like that look. I like how when you brush just certain areas on, do a dry brush like Al did in his video, it kind of turns it like a yellowish, but also we'll do some greenish. I'll give it a greenish look with that, the browns that I used, and that olive color with that pavement mix. So far I'm liking it. Now, I'm not gonna leave it like super yellowish or anything. I'm gonna, dumb that down a little bit because I don't want it to be like yellow, But I do like the look so far because it's looking old, it's looking gross, and it kind of looks like this would be like a mold growing on it, but I like the contrast of the darks from the lights so far. So I'm gonna do the front and the edges, and then go from there. Here's the result by using the raw sienna on the entire thing, which I am really liking so far. Kind of looks like peanut butter in a way, but it gives layers to the raw sienna, burnt sienna, the browns, all the different colors so far. So I'm really liking it. But I have one more thing I'm gonna do somewhat of a black wash, but not like a true black wash. I don't want to get too dark, but I really want to emphasize just a little more on the inside of like the mouth and the eyes and things like that, because this inside of the mouth is just a little too brown for me. And the eyes, So I want to darken those in just a little bit more, and just some of these smaller little areas here, and really give it a final look before I clear coat it and then install it onto the book. So it looks a lot different right now. I actually did somewhat of a black wash. I did like a dry brush with the black, and just so it got in the cracks, I used just a spray ball and then just wiped it all down so it got in there. So I'm gonna let it dry and see what comes out of it, definition wise, color wise. And I think the last step I'm gonna do is do some more highlights to the face and to the upper parts, but I didn't want too much black in there because I didn't want to look black versus like a darker brown. But you can see some blacks in there, and that's fine. But it really gave it a good emphasis on depth. That's really what I was going with this. And I understand why now Al leaves a lot of the black inside when he does the base, so he doesn't have to do it so many different layers like I'm doing right now. But I'm really liking it. I just want to get away from the, you know, too cartoony black, too dark look inside of the wrinkles here. But I needed just enough to emphasize the depth. But I want to do some more highlights on the edges because I was a big fan of that on that last little bit, but there was just not enough inside the deep parts because it looked like peanut butter on the front without having any depth in it. So I'm gonna let that dry and go from there, because a lot of times you gotta let it dry. If you don't let it dry, sometimes you won't see what comes out, and you really won't know your next steps at certain times. Like sometimes you have to just keep things wet and then keep going with that. But with this one, I gotta let this just fully dry. It ain't gonna take but a minute just to see what different colors come out before I start highlighting. All right, I'm gonna wrap up the paint here. I'm done. So what I did is I used that burnt sienna, kind of went over the high points and kind of brushed things down, you know, kind of a paint on, paint off kind of thing. Then after that, I went with the raw sienna and did the same thing with the high points. And you can see the layering of the lighter to the darker to the different siennas. And I know some people like it darker, but going by the photo where you see Tom Sullivan holding the stunt one that he still has, that one has a lighter look like this. Not too light, but it's got that look that I like. So I'm very, very happy with this layering. And to finish it off, I'm going to go over with a matte clear. If you go to Hobby Lobby or Michael's or whatever hobby store you have, they usually have matte acrylic clear, and that is the one clear that is guaranteed to be matte finish. I know Krylon makes a really good one, but when it comes to Rust-Oleum, I'm not a big fan of their clears because they have that double X coat, and you put too much on there and it's a matte clear, it ends up being shiny. So when it comes to anything acrylic, I always go with that, the Hobby Lobby matte acrylic clear coat, and it's a spray. You can find it by the acrylic paints. So I'm gonna go ahead and mat that down, and then we're gonna bind it. So before I get talking about this, I do have to apologize. I did get distracted. I was talking with Al and Ryan on Messenger about the book and paint jobs and things like that. And man, I just dig this paint job, and I started binding it. So what I used to start the binding of the cover to the actual book is E6000. It says 600, but it's 6000. It's like cement glue, contact glue, whatever you want to call it. Same thing, but stronger. And the reason why I needed to use it, it wasn't like a normal book where it's flat. I wanted these contours. And the contour I wanted is when you see Ash pick it up in Evil Dead 2, you can see it has that bend in it. So I wanted that severe bend. Now you can see I got a clamp down here and a clamp over here. This clamp is just holding it down because it once I actually put this cover on, it wanted to flip open. So it's kind of settling in with the glue. It's pretty much set now. but it's settling the cover down, kind of stretching it and getting it into place so it doesn't want to flip over like wide open every time I have it out. And down here, I just put some more glue right there. Now, it won't take that form. It's not a very strong clamp. It's just holding in glue. So this will form back out to have less of a severe bend than this. But that's what I was going for. So if you put a lot of bends into it in the cover, you're gonna have a little more problems, a little more trouble binding it. Another thing I also used was the trusty Jill super glue. Now that holds very well. I've seen people use them for latex covers before in different videos. So I wanted to make sure that I had this on hand, which I'm out of it now and I need more. But the reason why I started with this is I can move it, adjust it. It doesn't harden up as fast as something like this. So when I initially put this cover on, I was off a little bit. So I had to peel it back and readjust and re-glue. And if you're doing this process, have a shit ton of clamps. So what I did is start with the front cover, then the binding, then the back. I don't know if that's the proper way of doing it, but it worked for me. I'm very happy with it. And tomorrow I'm gonna get some more glue to put the edges down. The nice thing about this is you can see right where the edges are. So if you're doing this yourself, you can easily measure out the cardboard or whatever you're using for a book to cut it out to shape. So that's really nice. I have the rounded edge versus the squarish. Somewhat squarish, somewhat roundish. And then there's the back. And the nice thing about latex is with clamps, if you're not gonna mar it up, don't mar it up with your clamp. Definitely put it on there, and what will happen is a lot of times it'll just lift back up. So if you're using clamps, make sure they're not gonna mar the crap out of this cover because you're gonna regret it. Just have some really good clamps nearby, nothing crazy. And if you're gonna do this bend, what you wanna do is when you make your book right there, Al did that pre-bend, pre-bend for me. Excuse me. So I have that already set and ready. But I'm very, very happy with it. Notice how it changes color in the certain lighting, which is very, very cool. And definitely follow Al's tutorial on the paint because, I mean, honestly, it's the best one. And if you use that, it ends up feeling a lot like leather. Let me show you the clear that I use. I know he uses Krylon clear, but this is the clear that I use for mine. So anytime I do any kind of acrylics or anything like that, or even chainsaws, if I want a really good matte finish, this is what I get. You can find that at Hobby Lobby. Michael's also has something very, very similar. So Michael's or Hobby Lobby, as far as I know, where I have things available, that's what I like to use. It really gives a nice matte finish. It looks a little shiny, just a little bit, but not super shiny. But it's looking good. I like it. Look at that look right there. With the indent right there in that corner. Man, my dog's chewing on a bone. Really digging it. Really liking the contrast and different lighting. And I've been wanting this book my entire life, and now I do. So let's get some glue, more glue actually, and do the inside and finish this sucker up. So we're going to talk a little bit about the binding. Now, I am not a professional. I am not the best at any of this kind of stuff because I'm not a book guy. Al, you already did mention he might do a video talking about how to bind these things because when it comes to round corners, it's not easy. It's actually really hard. So far it's looking good. Get the round corners, things like that. And one thing you'll notice when you're doing this and you have it painted, you will lose some paint here and there. That's just something I'll have to repaint in. Make a section right here too, or is that dust? That's just dust. little tiny sections. That's when you just rub in whatever color you're using and just rub the rest out. So you can see a little bit there and on the edges here. The one thing Al did tell me is be ready with the foam clay. So you can see this right here. It looks pretty shitty. I agree. It looks pretty bad. Down here as well. And certain sections on the edges. This isn't done yet, of course. But the one thing you want to remember when you're doing this, if you're binding this yourself, is you need to know where to bind it. Now, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you get this cover, you can just lay it flat and see the outline of the book. Everything else was added on later by David Bartrug, so Al could bind them. That wasn't on the original one. So you can see those lines. And you can basically open this up, have the cover with the inside facing out, and see the lines and trace them out, which I did because I took the book that Al made and needed to sit it just right, so it was bound just right. And one thing you want to do, one thing that you'll see right here, you'll see on the top, see that little wart? You'll want that wart right on top. And you want that edge, that little edge right there. So there's a little thing for the binding. So once it's all fully bound, I'm going to fill up the seams with foam clay per Al's suggestion, which I totally agree with. Do some touch-up paints, seal it, and then this sucker is done. Back to the book. Now, you can see there's a lot of like this stuff sitting around. You will have to cut a bunch off. And so I still haven't done these edges yet. I'll get to those. And one thing that's kind of weird, I was talking to Ryan about this, is this giant lump at the top. Like, I looked at Ryan's and said, send me a photo of yours. You can see this defining line right here. But what I did is I referenced all the pock marks. You can see that Tom did some fine pock marks. There is tools you can use for sculpting to make those. When it came to David's, David had the bigger ones. And when you paint this, you will get a black defined line. So you need to make that choice of wrap it over on that line right here, or leave that lump. Now I'm leaving the lump because to me it looks like what Tom did. And whenever I painted this, it left a black defining line. You can see that line kind of right there. So anything that David added is on the inside. So, and it's just a little bit higher. Little bit higher. And when you're doing this, if you have to shave down any edges of your book binding, not the cover, but like the inside binding, do it. I use my Dremel to, like, if something was like just a little bit too high, I would shave it down. Not the latex, but before you bind it to it, so you get those proper edges. And I'm very, very happy with the look so far. I even like that lump. Love it. And again, this looks like dog shit. I'll admit that. But with foam clay, all these edges will be fixed. There's going to be a slight repaint as well, because you'll see some stress marks, certain spots like right there where it comes off, so that'll be fixed. And the glue that I used for the edges was that, because the other stuff likes to like fold up, and I'm not a bookmaker. I really am not a bookmaker, but I'm very happy with what's going on so far. I love the paint. Again, you can watch this tutorial, but I do highly suggest to watch Gothman's Epic Stuff. There's a video on how he paints his, and it works. It's a time-tested method. And when it comes to the clear, do not go with Rust-Oleum. Go with Krylon, or go with the one I showed you earlier. That's what I would do. Just a little side note for you guys. I have no idea what I'm doing with this book. I don't know how to bind a book. Never done it before. Definitely watch Gothman's Epic Stuff for this. Hopefully he does put out a binding video, because good God, it's a pain in the ass. Anytime you got rounded edges, it's a pain in the ass. And he just told me, he's like, man, get that foam clay ready, because you'll need that for those edges to make them look nice and right. So by the time this video is done, in which has been a few days, it's going to look good. And the funny thing is, when I'm done with it, I'm going to put it under glass. Yeah, I'm not going to flip through it every day. I'm just going to put it under glass, but this fills out my Evil Dead 2 collection. So, love it. I really honestly do. Even that big old fat spot on the top. I like that. But just remember that little wart, and you got to have this side hanging over this way. If you paint it right, you'll have that defined line. And it's basically a template for itself, because you can trace out the inside where everything else was added later. So it's not rocket science. If you mess that up, it means you just didn't take the time to do it right. Take the time to do it right. I got this on, Thursday or Friday of last week, and I'm still working on it, because it's got to be, what the hell is that? Because it's got to be right. It's got to be right. That's the truth. So my next video, the Evil Dead 2 Necronomicon, the Lineage cover will be finished. I love the paint. I love the look. I want to thank David Bartrug again. These will be done. The foam clay will be added around the edges on the inside that you see. Repainted, sealed, all little stress marks, things that have chipped off. They will be fixed. But I am so happy with how Al was the one who sent me the book, without the cover, of course, with that bend in it. And that's what I wanted. Like you see Ash hold it with that bend. I wanted that bend. So, very happy with it. And you can see the little bit of the lump on the back. But if I were to, just imagine if I took that down, how low that would be to the other side. So, I'm not a professional at this. Just not. But it's cool. And I love it. What I've always wanted. And next time you see this book, these will be done. The paint chips will be fixed. The foam clay will fix the inside. It'll be resealed and completely done. Very happy with this. Yeah. This is a must-have for any Evil Dead 2 collector. And if you didn't get one, maybe someday they'll come available again. I don't know. But I have mine. Thank you again, David Bartrug. Thank you again, Al Biardi, by helping me out with how to make this happen, because I don't know shit about books. And if you guys want to learn how to paint this Gothman's Epic Stuff on YouTube, he will show you how to do this. And don't be lazy. Scroll through the videos to find it. Don't be like, oh, I don't see it right now. Oh, man, it's not here. It is there. It's like literally 3 videos in. Do the homework. Do it right. Do not be impatient. Take your time. Do it right. Give this cover the respect it deserves, because it may never be available again. Until next time, you guys stay groovy.